All right, so Russell Wilson's not getting moved before the trade deadline, but who are some players that you think could actually get moved before the deadline and potentially make an impact for, an acquiring team looking to add talent?
Yeah, so Denver, of course, now at 1-5. I think you got to keep an eye on Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. I think both of those guys have been, they've been the subject of trade talks going back to last year. I think the price needs to come down for both of those players probably. The Jeudy, they probably wanted a first. You're not getting a first-round pick for Jerry Jeudy at this point. And Sutton, I'm guessing they probably want to look a third. You're not getting a third for Cortland Sutton. He's a good player. He obviously, like I said, had the awesome touchdown catch last night, but $14 million salary. Maybe if you eat a bunch of that like you did Randy Gregory, maybe then you get a third, but still probably, a bit of a tough sell there. Then you look at the other bad teams, and we have a bunch of them playing against each other this weekend. Minnesota without Justin Jefferson now, 1-4 going into Chicago. If they lose that game, but even if they don't, Danielle Hunter should be traded. They just have to do it. He's the best player on the defense. I get that, but 28 years old, turns 29 in a couple weeks. Will get you a nice value in return, and they need to start over the whole defense anyway. So I look there a little bit. The Patriots, they probably need to admit that they're just not close right now. I look at a guy like Michael Onwenu, who obviously we love, has been a good player across the offensive line, not playing well this year. But, they drafted Antonio Mafi, City So, all these guys this past year to replace him. You might as well just do it there. Super interesting name, maybe Josh Uche. I don't know if they do it, but it could be interesting there. And then Carolina. Brian Burns should be a name we keep an eye on. I think a guy like Terrace Marshall had 9 catches in week 4, didn't play a snap in week 5. When that happens, your antenna goes up a little bit as to why that's happening. So, yeah, look at the bad teams and look at the players that actually have value. I guess last one, Chicago. I don't think it's going to happen, but you look across the NFL landscape and try to find a cornerback on the trade market, and I've been asked by 10 different fan bases on Twitter. I think the only player is Jalen Johnson in Chicago. He's a guy that legitimately could come in, for some teams be a number 1 corner, for others be a high-end number 2. On the last year of his contract, the Bears have Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, and Terrell Smith, all guys they recently drafted. They're obviously not a very good football team. I just think that the price there could be so good, the Bears can't afford to pass it up. So, yeah, those are a couple headline names there.
Two really interesting names, probably one of which is relevant to this, that I thought were really interesting, was Washington in this situation they put themselves in with Chase Young and Montez Sweat. And Chase Young in particular, we talked about it on the show one of the days earlier in this week. He's playing really well, maybe rushing the passer as well as he has ever done it in the NFL, coming back off that injury. Washington obviously declined his 5th-year option, effectively said, we probably don't think Chase Young is either going to be the guy, or at least we're going to make him prove it. But now they're in this spot where both Chase Young and Montez Sweat are reaching the end of their contracts. They only have one franchise tag between the two of them. As you pointed out in your write-up, they share representation, so they can't pit one of them against the other one, because the agent's not going to be up for that. So Washington either has to watch one of these guys, if not both of them, walk out the door, or try and trade one of them so that they can use the franchise tag on the other.
The biggest thing for Chase Young, too, is on a Thursday game, so short rest, because he obviously still has the injury things going on, had 11 pressures and a 38% pass rush win rate against the Bears in that game. Yeah, look, I really was shocked they did not pick up his 5th-year option. They literally did the exact same thing with Deron Payne and regretted it immediately and had to place a franchise tag. So now you try to go to Montez Sweat, hypothetically, and get an extension done just to free up that franchise tag for Chase Young. Yeah, the reps are probably going to ask for the moon, because the free agency benefits everyone. It benefits the player themselves. It benefits the entire league. It's tough because it's a classic situation where it's a coaching staff and a front office that are probably coaching and GMing for their jobs this season. But from the high level, from the franchise's perspective, not trading Chase Young at the deadline for more than you would get in a hypothetical comp pick situation is just bad business. So I don't know if I expect it, but they really, really should look into doing it. Because even if you do retain both, all right, you're then paying your defensive line like $130 million a year, between 4 guys if you try to work that out. So, I guess you could tag and trade. But anyway, I think look, the new owner, Josh Harris, should come in and say, I get that you want to keep talent and win a lot of football games and save your jobs. Put his thumb on the scale and force them to make a move, because it just is bad business if they don't.
I saw you wrote that point in how much, because that's a sort of reasonably sophisticated level of like understanding how the business works from an ownership point of view. Like Josh Harris rocked in there like a few weeks ago. How in tune with that level of sophistication of like cap management, all this kind of stuff, do you think he is? And if he isn't, is somebody advising him with that kind of thing? Because you're right, like an experienced owner, that's exactly what should happen, right? This guy should come in and say, hey, you might not want to do this, but actually this is the best thing for the team. We're going to go in this direction. Does he know that at this point? And if not, is somebody in his ear that does?
It's a very good question. I do think we know he's a huge football fan. He's talked about kind of being in the mix by the Commanders for a long time now. I think secondly, the Philadelphia 76ers are, of course, one of the most analytically forward-thinking teams in all of professional sports. I'm sure Daryl Morey, I'm sure he's kind of thrown some ideas his way. There are those brain trusts in certain, owners that own multiple teams. They sometimes have a data science or analytics team that kind of oversees all of the teams. I don't think we've read anything that's happening in Washington right now. And then lastly, if I'm him, you live in Philadelphia, or I don't know, you own the 76ers. The Eagles they're the smartest organization in the entire NFL. So I don't know, maybe you call up Jeffrey Lurie and ask his opinion, and maybe you should do that now in the same division and all that. But it's a good question. I don't know, but I mean, Josh, if you're listening, you should probably trade Chase Young.
Or just Brad will be happy to work as a consultant. It's gonna. A modest six-figure sum is all it's going to take to secure Brad's service for, a phone call every now and again. That's all we're talking about here. It's perfectly reasonable. Don't worry about it. The Commanders cost you $6 billion. It's an order of magnitude less than that to get Brad's services on the phone.